because we have 1 hour, we're going to look into the production as part of our NPMM rollout. Then Mark is going to touch on the hydrovac and how we can book it. If there's any question, feel free to ask the questions. And then Rama is going to, hi Rama, welcome to our quarterly meeting. Rama and his team, they're going to touch on the BASWare and the AP process if you have any question. So for this quarterly, we're going to look into the productivity. As you know, production is our major item in our NPMM. It's a very important factor in our jobs as a construction company. Like when we price the job, as an estimator, like estimator carry the production to how many hours or how many days, how many man hours it's going to take to finish one specific task. And that's our production. That's the numbers we carried in the estimate. So if you are successful bidder on the jobs, we're going to set up the job in JD, as most of you know, and we're going to carry those production. If we don't hit those production numbers or productivity, meaning that we are spending more time on the job, meaning that we're going to spend more money, we're going to go over the budget. At the end of the day, we're going to lose our margin, we're going to lose our profit, and the job is not going to be very successful project, at least from financial perspective. But productivity is not all about, it's not only thing important on the job. Like we have two other major items that we call, if we have those three items, we're going to call the project as a successful project. Safety, like we are spending so much time and effort to make sure all of us are safe on the job site and go back home, spend good time with our families and be safe everywhere. Quality, quality is one of the major factors to call the project as a successful project, and it's getting more important as we're moving on. There's so many projects that the QA/QC is a major factor in the projects. They're asking for the full-time QA/QC coordinator sometimes. With all these major projects like Metrolinx jobs, there's a QA/QC meetings specifically just looking to the quality, and is a very important factor in the project. And production, like these three items, that's going to call the successful projects if we hit all those benchmarks for safety, quality, and production. But what does it mean, like when we're talking about the productivity, what does it mean to us? Of course, it's the state of producing something. In our case, we are contracted with a construction company, so we're building something in our projects. Efficiency is if you are more productive, you are more efficient on the job site. What is the output of the production? At the end of the day is dollar figures. Like if you are less productive in a job site, you're going to spend more money, you're going to go over budget. If you are more productive, you're going to save money and you're going to be under budget, meaning that your gross margin is higher than what you're expecting and what you carried in the estimate. Work rate, like if you do have a production rate, let's say in our world, like in traffic, like handwell, we are carrying 5 hours per handwell, so that's our rate we carried in our estimate. If we spend 6 man hours, we are over budget. If we spend 4 man hours, we are under budget, meaning that we're going to save money. Measurements, how are we going to measure the productivity? That's a major thing for us. Like that's our communication with our friends in the field. How are we going to take those numbers from the field, and how are we going to input those numbers in JDE? We have different type of projects, unit price. Most of our utilities projects are unit price. We do have lump sum projects. We have milestone projects in the combination with lump sum. We have T&M, time and material projects. So we have different type of projects, but by production, except the T&M, which is a little bit complicated, the unit price and lump sum productivity is same. But how are we going to measure the productivity? Let's say in a traffic world, again, in the intersection or in substation or in the civil type of work, like we do have the items that we need to complete on the job site. We need to have a field staff or our project staff, meaning the office staff, they need to go to the site and measure those quantities, either meter based or each, or even if you don't have a lump sum, go with the percentage basis. And we need to get those numbers because we're going to update the productivity report on the weekly basis, and productivity report is based on the quantities, based on the field measurement that we're going to put in the system. If you don't have any quantities, you cannot run the productivity report in JDE. And if you don't have a productivity reports, your budget is all over the place. So you as a project manager or project management team, you have no idea if you're making money on the jobs or you're losing money on the jobs, because the labor portion of the project is heavily independent on the production. Results, what's the output of the production? As I said, is the financial impact on your jobs. Like if you are more productive, we're gonna save more money on the job. And how much work you do and how well you do when you're doing the production, when you run the productivity. So those are the items that we're gonna look into that. But in the same time, we have some misconception of the productivity, and these are the questions or items that we have a discussion with our field staff, with our project management team, and those are the misconceptions we do, we flag out during our discussion with the team. If you're busy on the job site, does it mean that we are productive? Not necessarily. Like maybe we are busy because we are not that much organized. Multitasking, like this is a misconception that if you're multitasking things, you are more productive. But and you can do Google, you can do lots of research. Like being multitask doesn't mean that you are more productive. The reason why is that when you do multitasking, you're gonna miss something, and you know when you're missing something, you need to go back and fix it. So there's no way that you're gonna be more productive when you're multitasking. The other misconception is that you're going to be more productive when you're under pressure. It's not like that. Like we are more productive when we are more organized and we have more better plan in place. Productivity is about getting everything done. Again, we're not getting things done if we feel unsafe, if the quality is not there, or we have questions, because that's going to lead to rework, meaning that we're going to go back there and do the rework and fix the issues, fix the deficiencies, meaning that we don't have the budget for it. Again, that's going to come off from your gross margin and your net profit on the job. More productive when rewarded, it doesn't necessarily, when we rewarded, we're going to be more productive. There is no relation between those two. Working longer hours increase your production. Again, like working longer hours doesn't mean that we're going to be more productive, because there's lots of other factors coming to the place when you're working more hours. So it doesn't mean that you're working 10 hours instead of 8 hours, you're going to be more productive. The faster we work, the better the productivity. Again, doesn't mean that, because if you work faster but you sacrifice your quality, you need to go back there and fix your issues. So it doesn't really mean that if you're faster, you're more productive. But why productivity is so important for us, and why we emphasize on production? We have lots of conversation between project management and our field staff to make sure we are productive and we are safe on the job site. If you're more productive, we're going to make more profit on the job. We're going to be more competitive, meaning that we're going to get more projects in our portfolio. So that's one of the aspects of the importance of the production. Our business is only good as our employees, meaning that we need to have the productive staff in our projects. So if you have a more productive staff in the projects, meaning that we're going to be more profitable, meaning that we're going to get more projects, meaning that the company grows and we're going to be more financially stable. Understanding the scope of work, contract with change orders. If you remember, if you be part of the last session in the quarterly meeting, we talk about the change order. There's a big issue in the industry right now that the original scope that you put the price together and the change order or whatever is beyond the original scope is not really clear, because we have lots of issues in the design. The design package is not the greatest. So it's not really clear to our operation team what is part of the original scope and what is part of the change order is out of the scope. So it's really important to understand what is part of the contract, what is part of the change order, because if you do something that is not in your contract, you're going to go over budget, but it's really not the case, and meaning that you're less productive. Let's say, just for example, you have like 10 poles on the job at the intersection, we're going to do 15 poles, but that 5 poles not captured in the design, but client or owner asking you to put 5 extra poles, your production is going to be changed, because you're doing more with having a budget for the 10 poles. So your production is low, you're going to go over budget, but you're not going to get compensated for the money because you feel that it's part of our scope. Billing payments, healthy job performance, those are related together. Like for the unit price job, it's really important to get those quantities on the more regular basis. For most of the cases on the weekly basis. For some big projects, we capture the quantity takeoff on even daily basis, because if you have a unit price jobs, those quantities is related to your billing line. So if you're missing those quantity takeoffs, meaning your billing is not up to date, and of course you're not gonna run the healthy projects in terms of the financial. Having the right tools, materials, equipment, like we go into the trade shows specifically for the tools. You may have the tools that make your crew more productive. There's new technologies every day, so are we looking to those? Do we need to bring new technologies to make our staff more productive? And it's not just related to the field, it actually is related to the office as well. Like we have lots of software in our system that maybe is not really productive for us, or we don't know how to use them in more efficient way. But we need to make sure that we have the right tools, we have the right materials, we have the right equipment. Transparency, like this is one of the things that is part of our communication, as part of our NPMM. If you are not transparent with our field and not let them know how they're doing, how do they know that how much they need to push to reach to those targets? We need to be fully transparent with our field staff. We are one team. It's not office or field. You're one team. You're a project management team. So we need to make sure that we're going to relay those information to our field staff. They understand how they're doing, and they can come with a better game plan if they're getting behind. As part of the NPMM and actually of Procore, we are emphasizing on the lessons learned. So when we run the productivity report on JDE, hopefully we save those files in our project folder, and hopefully we're going to move to the Procore, and we're going to save all those information on the project profile in Procore. Those information is going to be reviewed by the estimator. So estimator putting the same package next year, they're going to refer to the production, the same production that we have done in the previous jobs. That's going to help us to forecast so many things, our backlog, future projects that we're going to see. So there's lots of valuable information in the production and in productivity. Labor productivity measurement is the single greatest tool for the management of this risk. Again, like labor is maybe 40–50% portion of our projects, and productivity is directly related to the labor. So if we don't know how to manage our labor portion of the job, it's going to be very challenging to manage those projects. Positive impact on the good productivity. We're working as a team, so we always want to have the good morale and motivate our people. So just imagine you're in the job that your production is not the greatest. When you show up on the job site in the morning, leaving the job site in the afternoon, evening, you don't feel greatest. And this is the exact same thing for all of us, for the field office and for the project management team. It's going to improve the good morale and the motivation. Of course, it's a good recognition for all of us. If there's an incentive case in terms of the production, that could be a very good benchmark. Communication, we talk about the communication, like it's really important to keep that communication open between field and the office. It's giving you some sort of satisfaction, feeling that you're doing something right in that day. Openness, like he's going to give us more overview of the jobs, how we're doing, what challenges we have, what strategy we need to follow for the similar projects, if we need to change our strategy for the future. Give us some sort of consistency, like if you have similar projects for same customer in same areas or with similar application, it's going to give us some sort of consistency. Adaptability, like something that we need to look into, that if we need to adapt ourselves to the market, if we need to improve our production by using new technologies, come up with a different game plan, those give us some sort of indication. And also reliability, like if you have a good team, meaning that we have good production, again, that's going to be make us more reliable from the contractor's perspective. Some negative impacts, not getting into that much details, but if you're not productive on the job site, it has a huge impact on your schedule. So you're gonna have a delay on the projects, meaning that you're gonna have a risk, have a hit with the LDs, liquidated damages on the job, and we all know that's what's gonna happen at the end of the day. Inadequate planning, is really, whenever we are not productive on the job site, one of the major reasons is that we are not planning ahead of time. That's something that we want to avoid as much as we can. I think we touched on the financial side. If you are not productive, the project is not going to hit the financial target. Efficiency, I think, is very straightforward. We are inefficient if you are not productive as much as we want. Lower team morale, that's going to affect on the team. If you are not really productive, the morale is not going to be the greatest. Lack of employee training, is it something that we don't know how to do it, or we don't have efficient project management team to manage the jobs, or maybe design is not the greatest, or our relationship with the client is not really productive. So that's going to give us some sort of indication and how we can fix it. And poor organization, if you're not organized well on the job site, that's going to lead to negative impacts on the production. Maybe it's me that we always have a problem. The last slide, the next slide, how we measure the productivity. That's part of our NPMM, and I remember when I was doing the JDE training, when you put the estimates together, your production is 100%. You have carried the production rates, and this is what you want to. That's the minimum threshold that you need to hit. Our target is 105%, because we want to be more profitable and more productive. So our target is 105% when we run the production, and this is the work plan that we're going to put in place to make sure that we're going to hit that target. As we discussed, the labor is a major portion of our jobs. We do what's a component of the projects: labor, material, equipment, subcontracts, some rentals if you do. But labor is a huge portion, as most of the time is highest risk on the projects. Depends on the scope of work. Sometimes material is going to be a very high risk item on the job, but most cases labor is the highest risk on the job. So we want to make sure we're going to manage that risk. So that's the importance of the productivity. Again, it's a tool to measure our performance against estimates. If we are hitting that 105%, meaning that we are more productive, meaning that we hit all our targets in terms of the estimates. It's going to give us some sort of indication how we're going to measure the man-hours on the job. All the information we can estimate is based on the historical data. We have a book called NICA. I hope that everyone knows NICA. NICA is the Bible for all the estimators. When you don't need to have the software, you don't need to have anything to price the job. If you have NICA book, you can price the job, ICI jobs, utilities job. The tools, the software, all those nice stuff is the tools to make us more efficient. So NICA is the Bible for the estimator. Those are the rates that they carried in the book because of the historical data. And that's the same case for us. When we measure the productivity on the multiple jobs, that's going to give us some sort of indication how productive we are on the jobs on a specific task. If we need to go back to our estimate and revise our production, or maybe we are too aggressive, we need to a little bit lower, or we are not there, we need to improve our production. These are all the information we're going to get. So those are historical data. It's not rocket science. To measure your production is not rocket science. To put the estimate, as long as you have all those components, you can build the estimates, you can manage the job, you can manage your production. But we need to follow those rules, we need to follow those principles that we do have in the NPMM book. And the last one is that when we install the components on the job site, we're going to measure the man-hours per those tasks. So again, that's going to give us a good indication how we're doing against the estimate, and if we need to go back revise the estimate in the future, or need to revise our game plan to be more productive, that's going to give us some sort of indication how we're going to measure the production, how it's going to impact on our project. That's me, or you? That's you? Yeah, okay. I'm going to hand it over to Anthony for the next 6 slides.
So how, for Black & McDonald, us as a company, how do we continue to measure our productivity? So for the project targets to be met, the project team should evaluate the project in its entirety with input from our field leaders too as well, because it's more collaboration in terms of with the productivity. If the field staff is not aware with the productivity that needs to be met based upon the estimate, then they don't know what the targets are that are set up. So we have to make sure that we are transparent with our leaders within the field. And then if the established productivity rate cannot be met, then we should get together to determine what are some of the pain points that we're facing to find ways how we can overcome those, find solutions for the best path forward so that we can maintain the established productivity that has been set up. Once the expected productivity rate has been communicated to the field, the foreman should work to incorporate these rates into their work plans for the day, for the week, and for the project. Us as Black & McDonald, like, what do we do to ensure that our workforce is productive? We invest in quality vehicles just to make sure that we have the latest and greatest equipment and tools that are out there to enable us to perform accordingly. Actively, we're doing preventative maintenance on our vehicles to minimize the downtime that we have on our equipment, because our equipment is a pretty important component that allows us to perform and do our work. We invest in quality tooling, as you're well aware, and just investment in supervisor and workforce training. We spend a lot of emphasis and a lot of time developing some of these initiatives just to make sure that we professionalize our workforce and ensure that they're updated with what's happening in the industry, so that way we're at the forefront when it comes to any innovation or technology. These are some of the drivers of productivity. It enables highly motivated team members within the workforce, also create a good working environment for everyone. You have the correct equipment and tools, proper planning. It helps you better sequence your work activities, clearly communicate project expectations, adequate project details are communicated, effective coordination between the field and the office staff enable us to have prompt responses. And we build it right the first time. We only get paid once, so it's important when we're looking at these things that, you know, we're looking at it in the right manner, because again, once we bill for it once. If we have deficiencies or rework, that's at the cost of the company, and we have to be paying out of pocket for that. These are some of the killers of productivity. Adverse temperature or weather conditions can impact how productive we are in the field. Lack of planning and work continuity. Reassignment of resources from task to task. Sometimes we have situations that we can't avoid where we have to send multiple crews at the same job site. You don't have that knowledge transfer, and sometimes some of the foremen don't really communicate. They don't know where things are left off, so it's important that we communicate that or be consistent with the crews that we have performing on certain projects. Material shortages or being unavailable in the right location, and that's where we come in with regards to the planning, where materials are stored, and ensuring that we have the right materials, because those can create delays, which then create downtime for our field staff. Poor instructions or supervision. Sometimes if we're not clearly articulating what the instructions or the task are, you create rework, misunderstanding, or things not done the way how it's intended to be performed. Lack of proper site access and readiness. This is a huge issue for some of the projects that we work on, because we are heavily dependent on some of the general contractors to give us access to our work areas, because when we set up estimate, our expectation is that we have full access to the area to perform our work. So anything that hinders us being able to have that access, then it prevents us from being able to perform the full scope in its entirety, and it just creates some delays and stuff like that. So just be mindful of that and make sure that we have proper coordination with some of the general contractors or clients and stuff that we're performing work with. Just to touch a bit on the timesheet accuracy and the quantity installed, your labor productivity must be reviewed and analyzed weekly. Without that intel, how are you knowing how the project is being performed and whether you're meeting, not exceeding the estimate, if there's any issues, how are we able to pinpoint those issues just to find corrective measures that we need to put in place to help improve the productivity. You need to ensure that you're getting those quantities in from the field, input in your productivity so you understand what's happening on your job site. The quantity installed must be tracked and entered into JDE every week. As you all know, this stuff is not new, but again, these are tools that are in place that helps us to be better in terms of what we do to tracking how we're performing on our various projects. It also provides future reference for estimating tool as well, and we touched on that a little bit by enabling us to get that competitive advantage. If we have the data, it allows us to be more better in terms of our estimating, and if we're more competitive, then we're obviously securing a lot more work, which is obviously good for us. And it just find ways where we can be better at what we do. It doesn't necessarily mean if we're used to doing certain things at a certain way, that doesn't mean that's the right way, right? So if we have that information, then it helps us to incorporate that into future estimate where we're performing the same type of work. It helps us to understand if tasks can be addressed, if it's falling behind. Again, it's valuable insight that it gives us to have, if we need to put any sort of mitigation measures in place to help us to be able to improve. And is the quantity 100% installed? So what do we mean by that? If the task, if you're installing like a duct bank as an example, and we're installing conduit, and we said it's an increasing case duct bank, but if we install a conduit and we put it 100%, but the concrete is not installed, then technically it's not 100%. So we need to understand how the estimate is built to know whether or not the quantity is 100% installed and be able to attribute that to what we're installing. What does that unit consist of? Again, similar to whether the unit is 100% concrete, you got to look at the estimate to determine all the components that make up that particular unit is 100% complete. If it's not, then we can't put it at 100% complete because then it's not an accurate reflection in terms of what's happening on site with regards to the unit installed. Just some of the key takeaways that we wanted to highlight for productivity being successful. Quality of work is important. Understanding the scope of work is important. Planning is one of the themes that you hear throughout the whole presentation. So it's important that we plan the work and understand and be proactive in terms of some of the activities that we're doing. Have to be adaptable. Because of changing circumstances and situations on the job site, so then that way we're remaining productive. Understanding some of the processes and stuff that they have in place and working safely is always paramount, right? So as Afra alluded to, those are the three pillars that we don't compromise on when it comes to safety, quality, and production, because if one of those pillars are not fulfilled, then the project is not deemed to be a success. Some additional details can also be found in your NPMM in section 3.8 under labor productivity for just future references. So again, this is just like a little snippet just to add some humor to the presentation in terms of how not to plan your week. It said on Mondays, I get ready to plan my week. On Tuesdays, I plan my week. On Wednesdays, I revise my plan for the week. On Thursdays, I put my plan for the week into my computer. On Fridays, I think about starting my plan for next week. So hopefully that added some humor to the presentation. But again, we just wanted to highlight the importance of productivity and how important it is for us to understand how it works and the impact it has on the organization as a whole. Not sure if we have any time for questions and answers, but we're right on. All good? All right, thanks everyone. Appreciate your attention.
I think the next, I'm not sure, Mark, you're going to go or Rama's going to go first. You have 5 minutes, right? Okay. Rami, if you don't mind, I'm going to give it to Mark. Yeah, please.
Thank you. Hey, why are you guys leaving? Get back here. Alan, right now. They're not listening? It's not over. This is the most important part. You have to sit down. Yeah. It's a pass or fail, and if you leave, it's a fail. So, yeah. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. In case you hadn't heard, we do have a hydrovac group, and we've got a lot of feedback so far. This is not new, so we've got a lot of feedback so far, most of it positive. We have heard that some people are having difficulties booking the hydrovac truck, so the task at hand today is to answer any questions that you may have in terms of booking. So let's begin. Clicker. There we go. Okay, so there's a SharePoint link that I've sent out in multiple emails, and if anyone needs it, just let me know. I'll resend it to you. But it comes up, it'll come up on the SharePoint. There'll be 2 calendar options. The first one is a 10.6 meter cubic yard truck, which is the only truck we've got now. There's also a 12 cubic yard truck, which we're getting in about a month. So you'll be able to fight over 2 trucks now. So once you see the calendar open, you'll see the availability of the truck on your desired date, and empty dates indicate that the truck is available for bookings. And one of the beauties of working with the hydrovac group is that even if there is a booking, there's a chance to optimize work within 2 projects or 2 groups and share the truck. If you only have, a few utilities a daylight or 1 or 2 pole holes or an anchor. We've done it in the past where we've called both PMs and see if we could split the time. So there'll be a little add button in the bottom right section of the desired date. The calendar is going to pop up a little drop-down menu here to fill the details of your booking. So the sections with a star are mandatory to fill out to complete your booking. Insert your OTPO number at the very top. You should have received it from purchasing, and if not, you can also always just put in like a TBD or something like that. We don't mind. We just need to make sure the truck gets booked. Division number, it's on your PO. Any specific requirements that you need, like a remote hose if you need a second operator, because right now we're just sending, or if you need a swapper, right now we just have an operator typically. And description of work helps us better prepare. Like I said, if you've got 1 pole hole, 1 anchor, then we're probably going to call around and see if we can double shift the truck. This will mean that you take less travel time on your job, and you could probably split the dump with the other job, so it saves you money as opposed to getting a sub in. Work location, time required are vital to populate so we can get to site in a timely manner without impacting your daily schedules. We come from rail side, so it's a good location, but there is a good amount of traffic in there, so we need to make sure we plan our trips accordingly. And we're at 100% productivity. A little throwback to the previous presentation. Ensure you fill this out along with site contact and phone number for our drivers to confirm if needed. And if you have any questions about the calendar or the trucks, don't hesitate to call. If you can't book for whatever reason, we're more than happy to put a placeholder booking in for you guys. So we've had foremen send us texts or emails or phone calls, put me in for tomorrow and Friday. I'll get my PC or PM to get that information to you. So at the end of the day, we're here to help, we're here to support. That's what this is all about, whether it's trying to minimize downtime on your job or travel time or just trying to get the booking in for you quickly. That's what we're here for. So utilize us as a resource, and I'm sure you'll be happy with it. So thanks, everyone. Sorry, any questions? Was it simple, straightforward? Okay, we're good.
Just
Just call us and see if we can make it work. I wouldn't double stack the bookings, because then technically you haven't got approval to book, but yeah.
Yeah, of course we have 1 truck for now, and as Mark touched on that, we're gonna get the 2nd truck in a month or so. But it's really important to understand that we want to keep the money in house. Like, instead of paying our subcontractors to do our job, we want to keep that money in our division, in our region. So Please try to book it as much as you can. We're going to be short for sure, like the volume of the work definitely is going to be more than 2 trucks, but as much as we can utilize these 2 trucks, that's going to be very important for us. We're going to have some discussion how we're going to maximize our booking and talking to the subcontract team to make sure that when you ask for the PO for any hydrovac on the subcontractor, we're going to first look into our availability of the trucks, and then we're going to issue the PO to that division or to that project. So just keep in mind that this is an in-house initiative, and we want to maximize the utilization of a hydrovac. Thanks, Mark. It was a very, very good presentation, my friend. I think the next one is Rama, so please, Rama. Thanks.
Thanks, Afra. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rama Budadu. I'm the Director of the Finance Shared Services. I've been with the company for about 5 years now. Actually, I started as a regional controller for this group. So, a very nice and amazing group to work with. And I'm lucky to have had Judy Stratton as my coach. And this was, I'm grateful for this opportunity. So I'm here today to talk about Bassware and accounts payable. I know it's not your favorite topic, but I'm happy to be here. So this is the agenda for today. As you can see, I don't have a list of people not doing the tasks in Bassware, so we are good. So accounts payable, why do we need to care? I know it's not your first priority, but these are the reasons why it is important. To start with, it helps to manage our cash flow. Cash flow is important for the region, but also for corporate, for strategic planning. The way you manage cash flow affects whether you get interest or you paid interest to corporate, and of course it affects your ROI. Another way to look at it is, what are the implications of not having a proper P2P process? When we talk about accounts payable, we should not be looking at it as an isolated function. It should be part of a full procure-to-pay process. So procure-to-pay, as you know, it starts with your requisition, PO, the matching, a workflow, approval, and eventually payment. So again, these are the results of a poor process that's not streamlined, starting with poor vendor relations. And I think in the past few years, our relationship with vendors has not been the greatest. First, starting with, we had COVID, and then we had the cyber attack, and eventually we had the rollout of Bassware. So all these kind of impact our relationship with the vendors, but we need to find ways to nurture this relationship. Of course, inefficient use of resources. After I talk about productivity, oh, sorry, but no, you're good. I'm good? Yeah, it's good. Yeah, after I touched base on productivity, so it is important for us as a team, operation, procurement, and API as well, to be able to provide kind of added value activities to you. Supply disruption, we heard it so many times. You're trying to place an order, but we are on hold because some other region or other division is not paying the vendors. So we need to be mindful of our neighbor, kind of being good neighbor. Reduction in supplier rebate. So currently our annual rebate is about 2.5 million for the company. 40% of this belong to utility and electrical division. So it's a big amount. It has a huge impact. But that's the amount of rebate also depend on our payment terms, our ability to actually pay our vendors on time. So we just need to be mindful. Impact on early payment discount. Currently, we have about 1.3 million of available early payment discount that we can use, but we are only taking advantage of about 50% of that. And last, you will know the most impact on your committed costs and eventually resulting in poor forecasting of your job. Mismatch loop. Mismatch has always been, I think, the biggest headache for the company. Since I started, whether it was managed by national procurement, regional procurement, pre or post Basware, I think the issues is still there. This is what actually happens when we have mismatches. So the invoice goes to AP and Basware. The system cannot do the matching. It goes to an AP team to investigate. We still cannot do the matching, so we sent it to operations for review. Operation review the invoices, look at the PO. If they are okay with it, they will send the approval to procurement together with the material requisition, and then it comes back to AP. AP try to match. And that should be the end of the process, but whenever we have any discrepancy, sometimes people will fix like one item, and then we have another item that we cannot match. And some of the questions that we also get is, we have money on the PO, why don't we just post the PO and get it paid? Unfortunately, we cannot do that, especially if you are using a line item matching. So we need each item on your invoice has to be reflected on the PO for us to be able to post it, and we don't have any other way. So just be mindful, again, this comes back to productivity. What can we do to help this process? I think it's all start with the PO best practices. First thing, whatever purchase you are making, whatever subcontractors you are using, just make sure you have a proper PO in place. As a company, we've been growing. We also have the 2030 vision. We'll be looking for $3 billion of revenue and sales. We needed an automated system. I think the construction industry in itself is a bit behind in terms of leveraging technology and AI in AP or in finance in general, but our competitors are getting there, and we need to get there as well. So these are some of the benefits of having an automated system. First, we have greater visibility, not only for AP, but also for operation. Within Basware, you can see the status of your invoice, whether it's paid or not. Faster approval cycles. I mean, how fast it is, of course, depends on how fast you complete your task in Basware. But for the first time, we have an automated workflow for approval. We are able to follow the delegation of authority matrix from corporate. I think that's really at a good level of compliance and control. We have better business intelligence. We have reporting that we can share, and saves money. Saves money for me does not necessarily mean reduction in headcount. It means we are building a foundation for future growth, but also we are moving from transactional activities to more value-added activities, more support to you. This is not meant to be a full Basware training session, but I just wanted to touch base on 3 tasks that you would usually get. So that's all the tasks you would see in your task list, number 1 and 2 and 3. Number 2 is straightforward. You will see approval and approve, means the PO is already matched. For non-PO, it's already coded. You just need to approve and move on. Number 3, you will see approval, but then you say add coding and adjust PO. So this one is the most headache, of course. You need to be mindful, it means it is a mismatch. So we have the PO, here what you need to do, follow the mismatch process. And the first one is the trickiest, is the header review and then add coding, adjust PO. What it means when you say header review, it means we don't have a PO number. So that could mean it is actually a PO invoice, or it could be a non-PO. So for you, 90% of the time, it would be a PO invoice. So in this case, you need to put the PO number on the header data and cancel and resend. Never add coding on a PO invoice. If it is a non-PO, then you would add coding. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, please reach out after. We definitely need more training. Some data that we have derived from Basware. On the right side, you will see the number of invoices and the average cycle time. Cycle time is the time we receive an invoice in Basware to the time it gets processed to JD. So on average, for 4,200, we've been processing about 2,000 invoices a month. And starting from January, your cycle time was over 20 days, and then it dropped to 19, 18. Currently in April, you were sitting at around 14 days or so. But the national average is 9 days, so that means kind of double the time with national average. So there's room for improvement. It's great to see the downward trend there, so it means things are improving, but we still have some way to go. In terms of automatic matching, so that means when an invoice comes in, it's automatically matched with your PO. It is touchless. So we are sitting at 17. I also add the 1.1%, which is automatically matched with manual intervention. So I will call it 18%, but the national average is 42%. So it's here as well, we do have some room for improvement. Some regions are actually over 50%, Atlantic is 50%, and some of the region that does freeway, they are close to 70%. So, just company-wide data, on average, we process about 30,000 of invoices on a monthly basis. Average cycle time is 9 days, and then approval time is about 8 days. Just like any new system, there's a learning curve, and as shared services, we are here to support you. We have some training materials on the wire. So if you go on that link, you will see some FAQs for Basware, some user tips, and the AP team as well is here to support you. Any inquiries, continue to send to the SOR AP inquiry. We also have the 4200 teams. We have other people that's supporting 42, but mainly the team is Alina and Shaila. Galina is the supervisor, and she's here today as well. And one important thing, what we realize is can be helpful is more like targeted training for your team. So we've done a lot of general training, but if you have any requests for your team to do some additional training, we'll be more than happy to come to you and provide additional training. We also created a Basware Teams channel. I heard some people don't read emails, so we find any other ways we can reach you. So we created this Teams channel. We try to post some regular updates, some tips of the month. We also use it to send a kind of meeting invite for a quarterly refresher. Most important part of this presentation, how can we better support you, and here I need your help, we need your help to help us better serve you. What are the things that you can do? Ask questions, be responsive and participative, share your feedback. If you have any challenges, do let us know. Complete your tasks promptly in Basware. My suggestion is just like after Anthony was talking about planning. If you don't put something in your calendar, you will never do it. My suggestion is try to book something in your calendar at least once or twice a week so you get it done. If you don't do it this week, you have to do it next week anyway. Why wait for the vendors, procurement, or AP to bother you before complete the task? So I will really appreciate if you could complete your task on a timely basis, and of course just follow the best PO practices and do it right. I believe this is the last slide, but not the least. All shared services costs eventually get allocated to the region, unfortunately. So currently we are allocating costs based on the number of FTE that we have, but going forward we want to use a better measurement, actual cost drivers to use the allocation. So we want to develop a model that is fair, equitable, and transparent for everyone. We want to encourage regional efficiency and proper behavior. So in the near future, this is a model we are building. Cost allocation will be based on number of invoices that you have, your level of automated matching and approval time, whether you're doing two-way or freeway, because freeway is more streamlined in general. Number of inquiries. We are coming up with a ticketing solution. We actually went live in the West, so hopefully we'll have it very soon for the SOR region as well. Number of expense report, any off-cycle payment, and also deviation from standard practice. This is not finalized yet, but that's where we are heading. Well, to conclude, I know it is a journey. The hope is, we're gonna work together to see how we can improve the process. So, right, questions?
If you have a PO with multiple lines, when
Yeah, thanks for that question. Yeah, I think we've been receiving this feedback as well, and we're trying to talk to the team, be more explicit in terms of what is a line that is actually missing. We're trying to do that, but we do have some challenges sometimes. We may have an invoice with, like, I don't know, 10, 15 lines, and the way we try to match, we do have to do line by line, and sometimes we match the 29 lines, and then on the 30th it's missing, so we have to start from scratch. So yeah, we try to do better in terms of telling people what exactly missing, but sometimes the items is not even there. It's more difficult to give a full analysis of what's happening on this PO. But we'll take this feedback, we'll definitely try to improve and provide more explicit kind of answers or questions what's kind of missing on the invoices. Sorry, missing on the PO. Yeah. This is a great question. Thanks for the question. So the question was, sometimes you look at your PO in JD and you see you have money, and then AP saying you don't have money. So what can be happening is, in Basware, let's say you have 5 invoices, then you have your PO. So we already done the matching using 5 different invoices in Basware. Some of them may still be waiting for approval. So it's already matched, but it's not been approved. Let's say 4 of them is already matched, it's not been approved. So we already used the money on the PO for those 4 invoices. And then the 5th one comes in as a mismatch that we sent to you that we cannot match. So if you look at JDE, you won't have the first 4 invoices that's already been matched on your commitment. It will still show because it is sitting in Basware waiting for approval. So that might be the issue, but there is a way when you actually reconcile your PO to run a report in Basware to see all the invoices that have been processed, under processed, all the status in Basware. That would be the best way to reconcile a PO. Because if you look at JD only, it might be timing. We might have already used other invoice to match this PO. That's why you don't have money on the PO. No, it's matching, it's captured in Basware, but we need the invoice to be posted in JD first for it to take the money against the PO. Right?
So in her example, in Tina's example, let's say the money on the PO is $20,000 today. But the money left on the PO is $20,000 today, but invoice is $21,000. Like in terms of the timing, from her point of view, like there's some sort of timing issues between the money left on the PO and the value of the invoice. So how are we going to address that discrepancy?
Yeah, so we create PO in JD, in JD or DSI, whatever you use. Then we have an interface where we transfer this PO information to Basware. The matching happens in Basware, right? So until this invoice is transferred from Basware to JD, in JD you will still have the $25,000. Just as an example, your PO is $25,000, you have one invoice in Basware for $25,000. We do the matching in Basware. Then we wait for approval, maybe sitting with Alpha for approval, right? In JD, in the meantime, it's already matched in Basware. In JD, you will still see your commitment of $25,000, right? Mm-hmm. If we have one more invoice coming in for $1,000, in Basware, we won't be able to match because there's no money, right? And then if I send this for review, if you look in JD only, you say, okay, I have $25,000 there, but we already use it for the first invoice. So better way when you have this scenario, you can just do a quick search by PO in Basware. You will see we actually have 2 invoices. That's why we don't have money on the PO.
Does it answer your question, Tina? Or?
And we can take away as well, if you don't know how to do a search by PO, in Basware, we can also provide some insight to that, and we can also maybe post it as a tips of the month in the Basware channels.
Yeah, that's a good idea actually. Any further question for Rama? Just two things I want to touch on that quickly. I know we are running out of time. So, like, you know, back in McDonald's, we are self-financing all the jobs. Like, we're not going to the bank and ask for money or financial institution. So, we have the money from corporate, and we're gonna manage our business based on that money. Why it's really important to be on top of our Basware or all the outstanding invoices is that when we run the reports on a month-to-month basis, this is how much money we have and this is how much money we need to pay. So if this number is not up to date, we don't know. We cannot manage our cash flow, and if you don't have enough cash, we need to go back to corporate and ask for more cash, meaning that they're gonna back charge us with the interest. So it's really important to understand the importance of the Basware and the AP, so everyone is on the same page, so we're not going to wait for like 85 days to process our invoice. I know it's a little bit time consuming, but going back in those days when we're getting like 25 pages of the PDF and we're trying to match every single invoice with the jobs, making a phone call to our supervisor, to our phone, and make sure there's a matching between the invoice and the actual what happened on the job site it was way more time consuming. So it's a very efficient tool. Maybe in the beginning it was a little bit difficult to get used to it, but for us, like in some cases, it doesn't take more than 5-10 minutes to go there and just look into your task and just approve it. That's one thing. The other thing is we are $2.2 billion companies now. We have so many suppliers. Some of these suppliers, we have a national agreement. So if you don't approve the invoice, it's not affecting your job, your relationship with the suppliers, not just only your job, not only your division, not only our region, sometimes it's gonna affect the whole company. What does it mean is that we touch on the productivity, we touch on the labor. Major portion of our jobs in material, like 40, 45, 50% of our job in material. What's gonna happen in our relationship with the suppliers if you don't pay them? Like, they're gonna jack up the price, meaning that we're not gonna get enough work because we're not gonna be competitive. If you don't have enough work, if you're not enough jobs to keep our guys busy, making more money, meaning that we're gonna less jobs, and I'm sure you know what's gonna happen at the end of the day. So it's really important to keep our relationship productive with the suppliers. It doesn't mean that we're gonna approve all the invoices. There's gonna be mismatch, there's gonna be discrepancy, but let's keep that communication open with our suppliers. Otherwise, it's gonna have a huge impact on our relationship with the vendors, with the suppliers. It's a very competitive market out there. So it's not just affecting your group or your project, it's going to affect the whole company. So just keep in mind, it's a really important task. We're getting the reports from the controller, from finance. There are some invoices sitting there for 85 days. It doesn't really make sense to me. Either the invoice is wrong or you need to take an action. It's only two options. You need to take an action or the invoice is wrong. So please pay attention to the Basware. Please try to be on top of it, and let's not have this conversation again and again. Rama is always available here. His team is always available. If you have any question, let Rama know, let procurement know, let your division manager or project manager or department manager know. We're going to address it right away. If there's any question, we are here to support. So please keep in mind, it's really important. It's not just a matter of your group, it's affecting the whole company. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Alva. Thanks, everyone.